welcome all ideas and suggestions that you might have. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Carrie Geppert.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Carrie Geppert. I work for the Division of Developmental Disabilities and the Family Advocacy Coordinator, as well as a family member. And we just want to thank you so much for taking time this afternoon to spend with us. This will be, just informational, but also very interactive. We want to hear your thoughts and insight and feedback. So please, like Kevin said, use the Menti, drop a message in the chat, unmute yourselves. We want to visit with you and get your ideas as well. So the next slide talks a lot about what's changing, right? So in Family Support 360, there had become a change with agency with choice services. That's the model that allowed you to be a co-employer with your agency with choice. So there are 5 agency with choice providers: LifeQuest, Dakota Milestones, Volunteers of America, Lifescape, and Center for Independence. So what happened is, if you are new to this information, what happened is those providers are no longer going to provide the agency with choice model for services, which means that we needed to look elsewhere to find a partner, a community partner, and a vendor that would provide that. Those 5 agencies still provide family support services. So rest assured that hasn't changed. Your coordinators are still your coordinators, but they did change the way that we co-employ to hire your providers. So interchangeably, the word provider and your employee are the same person, right? So when we say provider in these examples, we're talking about your employee, the people that you have hired to provide respite care, companion care, personal care, any of those self-directed services. And so essentially what changed is as of last month, LifeQuest has transitioned to a new vendor, Consumer Direct of South Dakota, and I'll let them introduce themselves in just a little bit here. Then that was kind of the first wave was LifeQuest, because they had a earlier time frame of when they were going to be discontinuing those services. And so then Volunteers of America, Lifescape, it's right in front of me. Dakota Milestones. Words are hard. I'm so sorry. And Center for Independence. There we go. Those 4 other agencies had a little bit further down the road. And so really what's changed is just how that service is provided. It's just going to look a little bit different through a different vendor, but it's still going to be the same services that you have always been using. If you are new to companion care, personal care, respite care, then all of this is brand new for you and you're not going to see much of a change. And so that's kind of the what has changed is that we've needed to find a different vendor to provide that co-employer model. Next slide. And so why is this change? I mean, we've been talking about this for months, right? So why is it taking so long? There's lots of different factors that play into making some of these like kind of big changes, switching from one agency or switching from 5 agencies to a new vendor. There's lots involved, just not just finding a vendor, but it's also a lot of behind the scenes. And so I just wanted to share with you some of the work that has been done to get to the place where we are today. The first thing we had to do is we had to explore the different options, right? Like we looked at different states, we've talked to different departments of human services to be able to identify how other states are doing it, what are they using, how is that service being modeled in other areas. Then we had to meet with the current providers as well as potential new providers, right? We needed to find out from our current providers all the ins and outs, and then explain to potential new vendors what it looks like, all the ins and outs of providing that co-employer service. And so we did finally identify that potential new vendor, which is Consumer Direct Care of South Dakota. And then we had to develop a rate, right? Like we had to figure out. So we found a vendor and we had to figure out what the rate was going to be and how compensation would work. We had to put a budget together. We had to make changes to the agency with choice model. So like Previously, some of you have probably experienced, there was a cap on 20 hours per week with the previous providers. And so we needed to figure
Here
out
we
how
go.
to eliminate that. Hi, Paulette. Did you have something to say?
No,
Okay, I just didn't want to, feel free to jump in anytime because I'm talking fast. So if I need to slow down, I'm happy to do so and let you talk. And so then we also had to get a contract together. So we do know that that takes time, right? So that extended out the process a little bit. We had to update the waiver. So the Family Support 360 waiver has to be approved through the Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services. So part of that whole amendment process is that we have to give notice. We have to allow public comment. And then finally send all of that on to the Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services for their approval. Then we had to get their approval. And then the stage that we're at now is signing up people and providers. So again, providers meaning your employee. And so that's where we're at today. So as you can see, it seems like it's been forever that we've been talking about this change, but really all of these other factors had to happen in order to be able to initiate the new service. So thank you so much to LifeQuest. LifeQuest has been just an awesome partner. They have helped us kind of navigate through this first wave of individuals moving from their agency with choice model to the new vendor, Consumer Direct of South Dakota. And so LifeQuest, thank you so much if you're on today. We just appreciate your partnership and just navigating these waters together for our very first group that has transitioned over. So coordinators, thank you so much for helping your individuals and being such a great partner with us as well. And so since we have kind of a big group of people with LifeQuest that have recently switched and have switched over to Consumer Direct, I'm just curious, and if you want to use the menti.com, just take your cell phone and scan that QR code through your camera app. Just scan that QR code and you can provide your feedback there. But we want to know if you are one of the families that have gone through or one of the coordinators that have gone through this process of that transition to Consumer Direct. We would love to hear your feedback. Tell us what you liked about working with them, maybe what you wish things were different, because as we go through the next few waves of transition, we want to know if there's something that we could do differently or better, or what you really appreciated about the process. So you can use that menti.com. You can go directly to the website and use the code listed on the screen. You can unmute yourself and just talk, or you can put your comments in the chat box. So just anxious to hear some of your feedback, if anybody would like to share. I know sometimes it's hard to find that unmute button. So if you would like to just unmute yourself and talk, that'd be great. Otherwise, drop us a line. Anybody have good, bad, or indifferent experiences with their transition?
Carrie, we have one response in the chat or in the Mentimeter, sorry. People without smartphones or those with limited tech skills struggle. Previously, they used paper time cards.
Yeah, that's great feedback. I think that we have somewhat of a solution or an option for that, and I'll let Consumer Direct talk about what those alternative solutions are. But you're right, this is a new way of doing things. And so some people really appreciate having that phone app, but then others are like, this is just too techie for me. So I think that Consumer Direct can share with you a little bit more about what their options are for somebody who just really struggles with the technology part of it. Okay, Brandy, thank you for that feedback. So Brandy shared that families have shared the app and website are fairly easy to navigate after learning it. Yeah, that's a really good point, right? Sometimes things are hard at first because it's unfamiliar. But once you're on it more and practicing, then it becomes a little bit easier to use. Think about like even when we get new software at work, just navigating it and like, oh, I forgot. Now, where do I find that again? And sometimes we have to ask lots of questions in the beginning. Then it becomes a little bit more familiar. So that's good feedback too. But yeah, I think we have a couple of different solutions for those that just really don't care for the technology. We do have some options. Great feedback. Anybody else? Anything else in the Menti, Shivani?
Nothing
Okay.
else.
I think we'll move on, but certainly if you think of something, please drop it. Or if you have a question about maybe the transition from the first group, maybe we'll be able to answer that as well. So as I talked about the long process of how we got to this place, one of the things that I mentioned is that we had to have that waiver amended through the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. So Cade, would you mind just sharing a little bit about what that amendment process looked like and what's happened there?
Yeah, absolutely, Carrie. And my name is Cade Anderson. I'm with the Division of Developmental Disabilities. So the Family Support 360 waiver amendment has been approved. We kind of started that process in late spring. So kind of what a waiver is it basically, it's our agreement with the federal government to kind of follow a set of rules and to provide, it allows us to provide services for individuals. So kind of, it does go back and forth a little bit with them. They're not always super easy to get approved. And once it's agreed upon, if we ever decide we want to change something in the waiver, we have to do what's called a waiver amendment. So we open it up for public comment. We receive that comment from families, and then we have to go back and forth with CMS on, kind of if they have questions and kind of getting those questions answered for them. So it's kind of a really back and forth long process. Each waiver is good for 5 years. So that's kind of a little background there. We did get a lot of public comment. I think we had over 30 comments, and we try to incorporate that as much as possible into the waiver amendment that we did in the spring. But then, like I said, it's just been approved. And in this particular waiver amendment, the main goal was to find a stable and sustainable solution for agency with choice. And I think we did, kind of find that. We did appreciate your feedback. The town, kind of one of the different options that we kind of did with that is we did offer a lot of town halls. We conducted a statewide tour, kind of to learn more about your experience and ideas. We hosted 7 family work group meetings, and just big shout out to the family work group. They did take time out of their own life, their personal lives to come join these work groups. So they were all volunteers, and we greatly appreciated all the feedback that they offered. So I think we can go to the next slide, Ben. So ongoing partnership. So in the coming months, we will work with the community to modernize and transform Agency of Choice and Family Support 360 by completing a second waiver amendment. This second waiver amendment is going to be more to modernize and transform Agency with Choice. So we're going to continue to partner with you to continuing the town halls, listening tours. We just want to hear about your experiences and ideas that you might have. We will reset and reopen the family work group. So we will be offering that to new members. So if you're interested in that, that's something to kind of be on the lookout for. There'll be more information coming soon on that. And then there will need to be a new waiver amendment to implement the changes. And so then whenever we do that, it will be open for public comment. So you can definitely share feedback there, or even if you have ideas, definitely reach out to the division, and we will drop our email addresses into the chat. So that way, if you do want to reach out, you can do that. So another kind of thing we just openly ask is like, how else would you like to engage with us? For example, we could do surveys. if that is something that would be be of interest to you. But please let us know. Any idea is a good idea. So you can just unmute, drop it in the chat, drop it in the Menti. We just kind of really would like to hear from you on how we can improve and how we can improve our engagement. And if you guys can't think of anything right at the moment, you know, just drop it in the Menti or the chat, and we'll have time at the end if we have questions or can get that feedback then too. And sorry, Shivani. I think Shivani's got the next slide on overtime.
Yes. So we've also been getting a lot of questions about overtime and what the policy is on overtime and whether employees can work overtime. So to clarify, in agency with choice, there will be a 40-hour a week work week limit for employees. So an employee can work up to 40 hours a week across all participants served. So it's up to the employee to manage how they share those hours and how they coordinate amongst the multiple people that they're working with. So let's say, for example, in this 40-hour example, let's say I'm an employee and I am working with both Carrie, Cade, and Kevin. And I'm working 20 hours a week with Carrie, 10 hours a week with Cade. Now I'm going to need to manage with Kevin. Okay, I only have 10 hours left in my work week to be able to work with you. So the employee has to adhere to 40 hours across all of the participants that they're serving. So if you know that you're working with somebody today that's serving multiple people or working with multiple people, you're just going to want to give them the heads up that, hey, you know, how are we going to work on the schedule together to make sure that you're under the 40 hours? Now, if an employee routinely works more than 40 hours a week, Consumer Direct will be monitoring that. And in the event that it keeps happening over and over again, they can pursue disciplinary action. Now, if you are in a scenario where you're a person receiving services from an employee who's working across multiple people and you're exceeding the 40 hours a week per limit, there is an option to move instead to common law, where you can kind of circumvent or work around that 40-hour limit across multiple people. That's because in agency with choice, the employee is always employed by Consumer Direct, whereas in common law, Consumer Direct helps you or Acumen helps you self-direct, but you're employed by the employee is employed by you, the participant. So that 40-hour a week limit would apply separately for each participant. So you can work, or an employee in that case can work more than 40 hours a week if they're working with people who are in common law as well as agency with choice. So if you do think you might be tripping that limit, right, or your provider might be tripping that limit, and you want to consider using common law instead to help avoid that, that limit for your employee, you can sign up with Acumen today, or you can enroll with Consumer Direct for common law starting October 13th. So very, very soon. Any questions?
Thanks, Shivani. And certainly feel free to add questions in the chat or on the Menti, and we'll certainly circle back to that topic of overtime if there's any questions on that. We use a lot of big phrases, right? Common law, agency with choice. What are they? How do they compare? So we do have on our website, there is a agency with choice tab on our website that kind of explains all of the different options. There's a side-by-side, so it shows you kind of the difference between common law and agency with choice. Consumer Direct will be offering that common law model as well, beginning October 13th. And so if you want more information on which option would be best for you, work with your family support coordinator. They are very well educated and knowledgeable on both options. They certainly can talk through those with you. If you have kind of bigger picture questions, certainly myself or Kate are here to help. Kevin, I'm going to volunteer him as well. And so anybody from our division can certainly answer those questions, but your family support coordinator knows your family best. They know your scenario, situation, and they really can help you navigate through both of those different options. So feel free to reach out to your coordinator if you have more specific questions. So we're talking next wave, right? Next wave of transitioning to consumer direct so that there's no interruption in those self-directed services. The next transition group is going to be people with Lifescape, Dakota Milestones, Volunteers of America, and a select group of people with Center for Independence. And those individuals will all be reached out to. You will be notified if you're part of that group. So there's no action needed on your part right now. Just more informational that is happening soon. The enrollment process will start October 13th. And then receiving services through Consumer Direct starting November 17th. So enrollment starts 13th of October, and then you can start your services November 17th. There is also an optional option for this next transition group. The optional option, say that 3 times fast, optional option. The optional option is the people that are currently using common law with Acumen, if they are interested in switching to agency with choice, they are welcome to do so during this next wave. So if you're curious about going back to the agency with choice model after you've experienced common law, that is certainly going to be an option for you to also enroll during this time. Again, work with your family support coordinator. They're going to know, your situation best, and they can help you navigate. Even if you're interested, just talk with them and find out more information. And I think similar services are being provided. It's just how the employment part of it works. And then, obviously Consumer Direct will also be offering common law. So if you want to go from common law to common law, you can do that as well. We'll share a timeline here next of just what that is. A nice visual, just throw a lot of dates out, but it's nice to see it kind of in a timeline, right? So we're having these town halls in September to really kind of get the word out about what's happening next. The enrollment begins at October 13th. So that's what's happening in October. In November, a couple of things are happening. Those 4 other agencies will be ending their agency with choice services. November 16th will be the last day that people can manage their providers through that agency with choice vendor. So if you have an employee that's providing companion care, respite care, personal care, and they're currently getting paid through Lifescape, VOA, Dakota Milestones, or CFI, for CFI, the select group of people, those will no longer be able to bill for their time in the old agency with choice. They have to switch over to Consumer Direct and get enrolled with their employee paperwork in order for there not to be a disruption in payment of services, right? So if they provide a service and they're working and they work on November 16th, they can do that, but that would be the last day that you can bill to that specific agency with choice. The next day, if they work on the 17th, they're going to need to be already enrolled with Consumer Direct because otherwise they might not be paid for the services that they provide on the 17th. So it's very crucial that your employees get enrolled as soon as the enrollment period starts on the 13th. Because we don't want any disruption in your employees getting paid or services being provided. So again, work with your family support coordinator. They'll help you with navigate those things. So also at the same time in November, on November 16th, those services end and Consumer Direct services begin on the 17th. And then in December, December 13th will be the first payday for those who started providing services through the new Agency with Choice Consumer Direct. That was a lot. Questions on that? All right. Well, and again, as you're thinking and one pops up, drop it in the chat or on the Menti. And so I'm going to get to the part of today's topics that you probably are most interested in hearing, and that's the how-to, right? We want to know, like, that's the what and the why. Now you need to know the how. And so I am honored to introduce Janessa. Janessa works for Consumer Direct of South Dakota, and I'll let her introduce her team and share with you a little bit more about the how this process works.
Thanks, Carrie, and thanks everyone for jumping on to learn a little bit about this transition and about who Consumer Direct is. My name is Janessa, and I am the State Director for South Dakota with Consumer Direct. We also have Megan, our Regional Director, Maxine, our Senior Director, and Carrie, who provides a ton of support through our transitions here, joining from our team today. As we talk through what the process looks like, feel free to put questions in chat or use Menti, or you can also just unmute and ask your question as we go along. Feel free to interrupt if you have a question mid-slide or mid-presentation. So let's start with a little bit about who is Consumer Direct. So Consumer Direct began in Montana a little over 3 decades ago, serving a small population of people, and we have spread out across the United States now. We are now in 14 different states. We serve about 89,000 participants and 112 caregivers providing support to those participants. We are super excited to have South Dakota join our team and to be providing these services and to be able to support all of you and your families. All right, one of the things that is most important to us is that you each are coming to us at a different level of where you're at and what your preferences are. So we want to make sure that we're a super supportive partner and you can contact us in the way that works best for you and your sometimes very busy and crazy schedule. So you can contact us by telephone, by email. We will be providing a series of live webinars that you can call in and ask your questions and get some support. We will be traveling around the state of South Dakota, which we'll talk about in just a little bit, where we would love for you to pop in and say hello and meet our team. We can help you with enrollment. We can help you to complete some packets. We can answer general questions. We do have a local office in Sioux Falls, and then we also have program coordinators throughout the state of South Dakota that are here to help. And on a little bit later slide, we'll provide our contact information for you. So we want to make sure that everyone is set up for success in this transition, and you can do that in the way that makes the most sense for you. So if you are a self-service person, we will have lots and lots of resources on our website. We'll have some frequently asked questions. We'll have some video resources. We will also record our webinars so that you can watch those at your convenience. We also have remote options where you can email us, you can ask for virtual support, we can do some screen sharing, we can walk you through instructor-led trainings. And then we also have in-person. If you are that person that says, this sounds really hard and I really just need one-on-one someone to come out to my home and show me, we are happy to do that. You can stop into our office if you are in the Sioux Falls area, or we can send one of our coordinators to your home to help you to be successful through this transition. So let's talk a little bit about our program coordinators. I want to just say that your family support coordinators play an essential role for each of you, and their roles are not changing. So I want you to look at us as just an added partner to help you with your services and being successful. So our coordinators will help with things like enrollment paperwork or employee hiring, how to enter your time, any pay questions, utilization reports, and things of that nature. But the role of your family support coordinator will not change. We'll work as partners to help you be supported with your services. Any questions so far? All right. We do have our contact information here. Our website is consumerdirectsd.com, and we'll have up-to-date information there. We have our name and our logo. Be looking for that. Our enrollment packets are, we use DocuSign as a partner, but those emails will come DocuSign on behalf of Consumer Direct. So make sure that you are marking that name down. And then our email box is info.cdsd@consumerdirectcare.com. Please add that as a contact and a safe sender so that as we're providing some essential communication, you are up to date with everything. Let's dive in a little bit to what is needed to be successful in the transition. So when we first start, we are going to be in communication with your family support coordinator to start getting information about who will be transitioning to us. So it's really important to make sure that you have an updated email address, mailing address, and phone number. And if you're an employee, you will be completing a employee packet, and in that packet is an I-9. So we will send you a packet, you will fill out the top section of it, and then as a participant or designated rep, you'll be verifying documents and entering information from documents like a passport or a state ID or driver's license or potentially a birth certificate. And so make sure that you know where those documents are so that you have them all ready to go when you receive that employee packet. Additionally, we offer deposit on a Wisely debit card, but if you would like your checks deposited into your own personal account, we'll need a voided or blank check or a document from your financial institution showing the direct deposit information with your name, account number, and routing number. So have that available for us. Any questions to this point before we go into a more step-by-step of the process? All right. So as Carrie said, we are going to kick off reaching out to people starting the week of October 14th. So you will receive a welcome letter and instructions on how to enroll. We will be meeting with your family support coordinators and getting information to confirm who's coming over, what the most up-to-date contact information is. And then we'll be reaching out to participants and designated reps. And we'll make sure that we are getting all of your information up to date. We'll find out which providers or employees you'd like to hire on through us and what their wages are. Once we have all of that information, you're going to receive a couple of things. As a participant or a designated rep that supports that participant, you will receive an enrollment packet for yourself, and you'll complete that for us. And then each one of your employees will receive an employee packet. And there's some sections that each employee will fill out. And when they're finished with that, that packet's going to come back to you as the participant or the designated rep to finish filling out that I-9, verifying those ID documents and entering that information in about your employee, and then a few other documents identifying what your relationship is and kind of how you guys are going to work together. And we can certainly support any questions that you have on those documents. Once both of those packets are complete, then those will come back to us at Consumer Direct. We'll process that information. We will run a background check on each one of your employees or providers, and then you will both receive an okay to work letter from us with a November 17th start date. Any questions to that point before we get into time entry? All right. Once you receive that okay to work, you're also going to get instructions on how to begin putting your time in on November 17th. So we have a couple of options that you'll receive step-by-step instructions on. And as we said before, we'll also have webinars and can offer one-to-one support if that is needed. But we have a Care Attend app where you put time into. We also have a Direct My Care portal where you can put time into. And then if those options don't work, we do have interactive voice response where you could potentially call in to submit your time. So we can go through those options in detail in what works for your situation. But here's a list of all of the support that will be available to you, and please use it. And don't be afraid to tell us what you need or if you need specifics, something outside of this list. So we're always available by phone, email, in our info box. We will also begin weekly enrollment webinars where you can join us. We'll vary those times throughout the week. We know everyone has a unique schedule, and we want to make sure that we have a time that works for you. And if none of those times work for you, we will also record those, but we'll walk through step by step what that enrollment looks like. And then we'll also begin in November the weekly payroll and time entry webinars to show you what it looks like and how to enter your time with Consumer Direct. The week of October 21st, we will be traveling around South Dakota, and we would love for you to come and meet us, ask any questions you may have. And we'll have a slide in just a little bit here that shows those locations and times for you. And then you can also visit our Sioux Falls office or give us a call and say, hey, I really could use some in-person support, and we'll schedule a time that's convenient for you to send one of our coordinators to support you.
So thank you so much, Janessa. We appreciate that information, and I appreciate you sharing the voice option for that comment earlier that, you know, sometimes it's hard, technology is hard, so that there is a phone-in option for them as well. One exciting thing that came out of our family work group, several exciting things have come out of there, but at our last meeting, we really talked about just the value of peer-to-peer mentorship. And so I'd like to introduce Valerie Husby to you. Valerie has been such a blessing, both personally and professionally, and she has graciously, well, what have you offered to do, Val? Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. Hope everybody's having an awesome day. Yeah, I don't quite know what I've signed up for yet. It might be kind of dangerous here, getting into this avenue of what we're doing here. No, I'm just kidding. I know just enough to be dangerous, but I'm here to help. I'm here to answer any questions that you have outside of normal office hours. Because we all know as families, right? Our work doesn't stop at 5 o'clock. I mean, we're doing paperwork when the kids go to bed, things like that. Questions come up, and sometimes you just need somebody to reach out to. So I am more than willing to answer phone calls, texts, things like that. Answer any questions about the enrollment process that I can answer. If I don't know the answer, I promise you I know someone who does, and I'll get in touch with someone and find that answer for you as quickly as I can. So I know Carrie and Shivani can put my information in the chat there. I'll have them give you my email address and my cell phone number, things like that, and you guys can reach out, and I will be available to you. So.
Thanks, Val. That's so awesome. And I mean, just the fact that you just said, hey, I'll do that. I can be that person. There's so much value, right? And just like talking to somebody who's been there, done that. And Val has been there and done that. And she just recently switched over to Consumer Direct. So it's very fresh in her mind, you know, all the ins and outs of enrollment, and just in like real time for families. Sometimes you do, like Val said, need to talk to somebody after hours, or I love the fact that she said you could text her because, you know, then she has the freedom to respond back at her convenience as well. But Val really is a great asset to this process and for families to really have that personalized experience with a family member. And so her email address is just dropped in the chat if you just want to go ahead and copy and paste it. And also I can just read it to you. It's little184@yahoo.com. And then cell phone is 605-201-2197. So thank you so much, Val, for being that person for families. I hope they use the option because I think that there's so much value in there. So thank you
Well,
very
I'm
much.
going to be disappointed if I don't receive some phone calls or some text messages. I mean, yeah, you know. But yes,
Yeah.
no, thank you for the opportunity.
Awesome. Thanks, Val. All right. So, in addition to Val being a resource for you, we are coming to your town or close to your town. Consumer Direct has graciously offered to come in person and just do kind of a tour to stop in these different locations and just be available for you to answer your questions, help you actually physically enroll. So they will be in Rapid City October 21st. Over to Aberdeen on the 22nd, Mitchell the 23rd, and Sioux Falls on the 24th. And so if you are in any of these regions, they will be in the evening. Oh, and we have a virtual option on there as well. So if you can't go in person, we still want to support you, and I know Consumer Direct would love to answer your individual questions. And so there will be a virtual option on October 23rd, and that one will be during the day. So that'll be over the lunch hour. 12:30 to 1:30 Central Time. So 11:30 to 12:30 on West River. So any questions on the tour or how to get a hold of Val? Great question, Nicole. Are these locations, are there, yeah, in each of these cities? Is that what I read? It kind of just popped up on my screen. Locations in each city. Yeah, so they'll be, the location is going to be announced very soon. We're working on the logistics of the where, but they will be in the city of Rapid City, city of Aberdeen, city of Mitchell, and city of Sioux Falls. Is that what you're wondering? Did I get that? Oh, awesome. Thanks, Nicole. Yeah, so more to come. Your coordinators will share out that information. You know, DDD also sends out kind of to the listserv that information as well as where the exact locations will be, but these will be the times. So there are you know, several different time frames. So Rapid City's from 6 to 8 p.m., Aberdeen's from 7 to 9 p.m., Mitchell 6 to 8, and Sioux Falls 6 to 8. So we try to get the evening hours so that you can get home from work and kids situated and be able to have that time with us. Okay, great question, Brandy. Would it be appropriate for participants already transitioned to go if they have questions, or more specifically for families not yet with Consumer Direct? That is a great question, Brandy. Consumer Direct, do you want to answer that?
Looking for my mute button there. Sorry about that. So would it be appropriate for participants already transitioned to go if they have questions? Absolutely. If you have questions, you don't have to wait for those meetings, though. You could certainly come to our Sioux Falls office or give us a call or email us now. We hate to have you wait a couple of weeks if you do have current questions, but of course you are welcome. We love to meet people and put faces to names, so please do join us if you would like.
Thanks, Janessa. And I did see that you had put your email address in the chat. Ben had put it in there. So consumerdirectsd.com is the website, and info cdsd@consumerdirectcare.com. That's the best way, Janessa?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Great question. What else you guys got? Any other questions? All right, well, the next slide is just questions and answers. So do you have questions about what we've discussed already? Have you thought about things that worked or didn't work if you're already transitioned over? You have questions about the tour, so you can use that Menti code if you would like to ask your question there. Unmute yourself and just ask, or put your question in the chat box.
We do have a couple of questions that came in through the Menti over the course of the presentation. The first question is, are the pay periods for this group going to be consistent with the group already enrolled? So I'm happy to take this one, but yes, the pay periods are going to be synchronized to the current pay schedule that's currently being used. So that's the pay schedule that LifeQuest had and Legacy is now being used with Consumer Direct. So everybody's going to centralize to that same pay calendar. During that first transition period, there will be two paychecks that a employee would receive. One from, for 1 week with their current agency with choice provider, and then a second paycheck with Consumer Direct. It's a one-time thing. And then after that, everybody will be synchronized onto the same schedule. Then there's another question that was asked. Can you elaborate on what you mean by modernize and transform agency with choice? In what aspect? So the good news is that it could be in many aspects. So we're going to be doing some more more partnering with the family work group, more partnering with the community at large to really understand what are those other things that need to be modernized within Family Support 360. We had done the assessment maybe about a year ago. There's not everything from that assessment made it into the waiver amendment this time. So we know that there's still more work that needs to be done to incorporate that into the next waiver change. So it'll be more broad than just, information or changes to accommodate having a new vendor in South Dakota do fiscal management services, i.e. Consumer Direct. So it'll be about more than just the vendor. It'll be broad, but still to be defined what those changes could be. And then last but not least, another question. There was I see another question about the waiver amendment was just dropped in, so I'll stick with that theme. Will there be another meeting to discuss all waiver amendment changes from this time? So we did a town hall back in June to discuss what all of those changes were that were incorporated in the waiver amendment, and we can publish those. And I think we did publish those materials onto the Agency with Choice the Agency with Choice website that has all of the past information, past presentations. So that should be available there. If it is not immediately available, we'll make sure we get it up today or tomorrow. But everything from this first waiver amendment was already kind of published and discussed. But we will have another town hall in a couple months once we're kind of ready to get that second waiver amendment kicked off to talk about, what the range of those changes could be.
Thanks, Shivani. And then did you say there was one more?
There is one more. The last question is, how are hours counted against the 40 hours when a provider is providing services to several people at the same time? So this is a great question. So if you are an employee who's working with multiple people at the same time, it is the accumulative amount of hours you're working across everybody. So let's take an example again. I'm working with Carrie, with Cade, with Kevin. I have to count all of their hours together. Just because I'm serving, 20 hours with Carrie doesn't mean I'm just working 20 hours. I'm working 20 hours with Carrie, 10 hours with Cade, 10 hours with Kevin. That's 40 hours in totality. Does that help answer the question, or are you asking how, I don't know if there's a more technical question being asked. Okay, I don't see any additional questions coming through the Menti. And it looks like Ben just dropped the link for the waiver amendment documents as well, so those should be available to you too.
All right. If you want to drop any more questions in the Menti or the chat or unmute yourselves, we'd love to hear from you, even just feedback or specific questions to what's been shared today. All right. Well, if there are no further questions, I know Cade put his email address in the chat there. Consumer Direct also has their information. I'll drop mine in real quick. And if you don't have any other questions, oh, there we go. Thanks, Christy. If you work 3 hours with 3 people, is that counted as 9 hours towards the 40 or just the 3? Good follow-up question.
Christy, can I ask, are those 3 hours with 3 people like group services? Yes. Okay, so that's just 3 hours. That's what we're trying to get that to stack to. So when you're working with right now, the math looks strange, right? If you're not alternating your time, it looks like an employee worked 9 hours rather than 3, but it should be just 3, and that's what we want to centralize to.
Yeah, she said perfect. It's very confusing to those who provide those providers. So I wanted to clear that up. Yeah, that was a great question, Christy, and thanks for asking that. And then Kevin also, thank you, Kevin, for putting your email address. We're here to help, right? So here at the division, Kevin, myself, Cade, we want to be as helpful as possible. Again, your family support coordinator is going to know your family and your situation best, but we at the division want to make sure that you feel supported. And so if you have any additional questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. So thanks, Kevin, for sharing yours as well. Yeah, I think you should. All right. Anybody else? Well, a few of us will stay on if you have, want to ask more conversation and more private, we can stay on and be available to answer any questions you have. For those who don't have any more questions, thank you so much for attending today. We really appreciate you taking the time to spend with us. We hope that these town halls are effective and meaningful for you. Certainly, we want this to be a good use of your time. So if you have any feedback, don't hesitate to share it. Thanks, everyone.